Hi everyone, welcome to Chronicles of the Gray Hair Diva. If this is your first time, welcome. If not, welcome back. For all you out there, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that every time I go live, you will be notified. Today, we're here with a quick chat. We're going to chat about how did you fare out? How did it work for you when we was going through the world crisis? Of course, I got my friend I'm going to bring in the building. So hold up. Let me see. Hey, hey, bringing Chef Kev in the building.
What's up? How's everybody
What's
doing?
going on?
I'm alright. Mm.
I feel like we haven't talked in like so long. It's so crazy. I think I had got so used to when we did the series Sex Life, like we was talking every single night.
hmm
I think I got used to it. So it's so weird when we go to just these Wednesdays. But I wanted to come together this Wednesday and let us have a chat. I could probably take off my glasses because I don't need to see anything. Um, and have a chat on over the last, I'm gonna say now it's been like 2 years, right? We went through something here in this country, like that we never went through before, like ever. We always see on TV and different places, people are going through mudslides, they're, going through a crisis, like they don't have enough water, they don't have clean water. And, we see about it on the news and we hear about it and it doesn't really impact us because we're not living that experience. But over the last 2 years, we have been living in this world where who would have ever thought like to walk in the store or to go outside, you would have to put a mask on your face to protect yourself. And then I'm gonna say we was on lockdown for about how long was that? Was it 6 months?
No, it was
N-
lockdown was from
uh,
March
3 months?
15th to like from March 15th to like May. It was like 2 months.
Yeah, like okay, so like 2 months, but that's a long time. So we were on lockdown during that time period, and it affected people in many different ways. And I thought it would be great we come together, have a conversation on, how it impacted us. Did you know anyone directly that was really close to you that maybe had passed from the situation from COVID? And just, did you experience any loneliness? How did it work out for you? If you want me to start out, I can. When I first heard about it, first there was a lot of rumors. Like, and I would be honest with you, I didn't believe it. I was like, we hear about craziness all the time. I don't think it's really going to happen. So I didn't prepare like at all. And when I say I didn't prepare, I wasn't one of those that went out there and went crazy. I didn't go purchase a whole lot of food. Um, I did not go and stock up on toilet tissue, paper towel, none of that stuff. So literally when they called it and they was like, we were on lockdown, I was like, hold up, wait a minute. I was not prepared. Now I had enough stuff in my house to probably last me for a week because, it was like my average stuff that I had in the house. But when I started to run out, and I would go to the stores and just to see the shelves empty and to actually have to talk to the people who were in the stores to, find out, well, when can I come back? When do you expect your shipment? What should I do? I mean, I had friends meeting me on the highway, which by the way, when I did go outside, it was like a movie scene. It was like ghost town. It was literally like no one like in the streets. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I really felt like I was on a movie set. I mean, when I went on my local highway and the parkway, like the roads were just, it was just empty. And the toll booths, no one was in the toll booth. So they said, now I have Easy Pass, but they was like, oh, it was signs up like just go through and they're gonna mail it to you, any fees that you own, all that. So it was just so weird. It was so different. So I had to meet some friends because friends were meeting me like, okay, I got you a pack of paper towel, I got you some tissue. My girlfriend found chicken for me in one store. It was just so crazy. I mean, so I will say this, if I ever hear that that's going to happen again, I will definitely take it more seriously and prepare more in the sense of the supplies in my home because I totally was not ready, supplies wise, right? I was also not ready mentally, and I don't think anyone can kind of prepare themselves to be mentally ready for that because we're so, in a lot of ways, we're very spoiled, right? We're used to if I want to go to the store, I just get up, get my car keys or whatever, and go to the store. I want to do whatever it is I want to do. You're just able to just get up and do that. So we're kind of spoiled in that sense, and to be trapped in your home, and not only just trapped in your home, even if you did go out, a lot of stores were not open. Only the essential stores were open, and they wasn't even open all hours of the night. So it was just so many adjustments that we had to do in like a blink of an eye. I wasn't ready. I definitely wasn't ready. But I'll let you jump in and say a few words.
Well, unfortunately, I found out at the gym that morning. I was at the gym and I was looking on the treadmill, looking, and they talked about the closing coming that night, and I thought it was a joke. And I called one of my supervisors. Oh no, 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 they can't do that. But of course, by the time I got to work that afternoon, they were already saying that they were going to close, and I actually saw people leaving their job that I knew, not necessarily the job I was at, but I saw people walking down the street. One of the guys worked at a hotel across the street, and he was like, "Yeah, they sending us home." But we were told 2 weeks, and so the initial was from March 25th, I think to 27th, 29th, something like that. It
Hmm.
was supposed to be 2 weeks, so that was my mindset. In the city that I'm in, I caught the train into work. So on the way home, the trains, even though it was the last train, is usually it's pretty full. When I got off the train, there was 6 people on the whole train. Like I counted heads, it was 6 people that got off the train. And I'm like, and then walking to the parking lot, everything was just empty. And going to the supermarket, it you know how it is when the snowstorm is coming. For those who don't live in cold areas, when it says it's going to snow, it's going to they wipe everything out. This is worse than that. This was, I mean, it was no, it was like there was nothing, nothing in the stores. So, had to navigate through that, and there's no blueprint to this. Uh, Fortunately, at that time, we had toilet paper and paper towels on a supply that we got by the case, so we were pretty much good on that one. And same thing. I have subscriptions to Amazon, so I get razors and soap and things just come periodically. So I wasn't worried about. Uh, Sanitizer didn't have any in the store. I just made my own. Um, get a bottle, a plastic bottle, put water and bleach. That's a sanitizer. So I was pretty much good for that. Where it got me was the mental aspect of being alone and not having contact with another adult. Um, it was it gets to your mind because it's like, okay, there's only so much Xbox, PlayStation, Netflix you can really watch before you start saying, okay. And then the gym was closed, so I couldn't go work out, and I would go work out in the park and go for walks, and it was just empty. And you said it was a scene out of a movie, and you walk by somebody, and literally, you're kind of scrunching over to the side because you don't know who they got and who got what, and so it was crazy. So you just trying to, and then you check on your family check on you. You know what I mean? That was a real big plus. But we wasn't prepared for it, and I don't know, certain things there's just no blueprint to. Now we have somewhat of a blueprint, but to that we
Somewhat,
able
but just to jump in for a second, Kev. Somewhat, but I still don't think if it would have happened again, I think a lot of more people would kind of lose it. So you tapped on the exercise thing. So I kind of did a few things to keep my mind like right, so to speak. Um, and I started walking outside. And the only thing that stopped me is literally one time I ran into a deer and I was like, all right, it freaked me out, but I survived that and I still went back outside the next day and was walking. And then like a few weeks later, I ran into a fox and I was like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, God bless these people who run and walk outside every day. I could only imagine what they encountered. But those two things freaked me out. But before that happened, I met I can't say like neighbors per se because they're not in my development, but I met, I want to say, four people that I probably would have never met if it wasn't for the situation and as a result of me walking. And it was so interesting, the people that I met, and we did have conversation. And like you said, initially, like when I would see someone come and walk my way, either one of us would somebody would walk in the street to let the other person go by. So it was a situation. It was like, you was having precautions you because you don't know. And when I did walk outside, I will say this, even in the heat of everything, I wasn't walking outside. Like I had my mask in case I needed it, but I wasn't masked up as I was walking because I was alone and nobody else was really out there. I mean, it was literally like ghost town. And I would see maybe the same 5 to 6 people who would walk in the morning the same time I was walking. And so when I walked, it gave me a lot of peace because as I was walking, like I said, I met those people. And then in addition to that, when I walk, I would pray and I would talk to God. So I had like a different understanding of, the world, myself, and everything that was going on because I found my peace and my solace in going for those morning walks. And then in addition to that, like I was fortunate because I was still working, so I never missed a beat with work. So my company, my position is always like it was kind of I'm gonna say hybrid. So it was remote, but we had days that we went into the office. This was even before the whole, state of the world that the world went in. So, but once everything happened and we went on lockdown, I was 100% remote. So that was another fortunate piece for me where some people they suffered so much devastation. They suffered the devastation of lockdown. Then they suffered the devastation of being out of work totally because the jobs that they were at were not remote friendly jobs. I mean, if you were like a service worker, like if you work in a restaurant, if you work in a hospital, if you worked in a clothing store, well, you can't do a clothing store remotely. So it's like those particular people when they said, okay, we're on lockdown, they totally lost their income. So not only were they dealing with the lockdown, they was dealing with the loneliness and they was dealing with a financial piece of now not having the income that they were used to. And like I said, for me, I was fortunate that I didn't deal with that because my job was remote. So you go ahead, you can tell me about, your piece of it. I'm sorry, I gotta
All right.
but say
I
my
mean, I was locked down, and like I said, now the job thing, we got the unemployment. Thank God I hadn't filed my taxes, so I filed taxes, and you know, I knew I had the money for the bill, so I was okay with that. But once I got that situated, really, like I said, the biggest thing for me was the mental side of it, and then not being able to see your family, and so until July 4th this weekend, it had been a year since I seen like certain people in my family, very close people in my family, and you take it for granted, but it was something real serious. And where I'm at, you know, it was on lockdown. Other cities they were acting a monkey nut fool. Out here, people was taking it seriously. Oh, I should say most people were taking it seriously. Um, but like I said, it's the mental aspect of it, and uh, loneliness. Like I said, I have been lonely moments, but I've never been lonely. That's the
mm,
first time I really felt lonely.
mm,
And so movie night and Running out with my mans to go do these photo shoots kept my mind going because I was really, I was done, mentally. It was exhausting because, sometimes you want time alone so we can think, like you said, clear your head. But then sometimes you got too much time and too many thoughts are going through your head.
Mm.
And there's too much going through your head. And it's like sometimes you got too much time to yourself. And uh, I would get in my car and I would walk through neighborhoods. And this is what I knew was up because I would just drive through a neighborhood, park my car, get out, and just walk around the neighborhood. And here's this black man walking around some of these predominantly white neighborhoods, and nobody said nothing to me. No one called the cops. No one said nothing. No one questioned me. And I was like, interesting. But you had to learn how to navigate through these things. I realized, you start eating a lot. You see a lot of people uh, deal with weight issues. After the pandemic, after the situation we opened up, you see people later like, well, you got because you're sitting there and like I said, you don't have a gym. You could work out outside, but if it's raining or it would get a little cold sometimes, a little hot. It was something. I've been out there, and then when you're out there, you're trying to pick a time. This is before the vaccine. When you want to go outside, we around nobody, and sometimes you go to the park and there's too many people in the park. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot going on, and then you realize how lonely people are. There's people that they don't have their situations. Some people said they would love to have been in my position because they were stuck in the house. Some people, they live 4, 5, 6 people in the house and going to work is their break. And now the kids are not going to school; they're schooling from home. The wife is at home, the mom is at home, and now they're stuck at home. And the outlet they did have, they don't have anymore. So it was a toll on some people's relationships, and you see that. So sometimes some people may have gotten closer together, some people have drifted further apart. But
Hmm.
this was something you couldn't prepare for because we didn't have it at the time. I knew people who had to cancel their weddings or events that they had, and so
It was a
it
lot.
was
It was.
it
I
was a
think
lot.
we had to learn how to deal with a lot during that time period, and some of us had to learn how to deal with and maybe be with ourselves.
Mhm.
So for me, I guess I did things to make sure, like in my mind, like I was still doing the norm. So like I said, I still had work. So every day I still had to, work. So that was still normal for me. But what I would do, because as you were stating, like the kids were doing homeschool. So to make sure that my son felt like it was normal for him too, even though he was doing homeschool, I would say, I told him every time that I told him, be ready at 5 when I get off of work. And we would literally leave the house in the morning sometimes, leave the house in the evening, take a drive to the Walmart, even though nothing was there. We would go to Starbucks literally every day, and I really just went more to have some like normal feeling of we, got out the house and we wasn't just in the house, the whole time. And that was kind of beautiful too and weird at the same time because like I said, there wasn't many people on the road. I tell you, for me in our state, where I'm at, the Chick-fil-A was open every day. They must have made a killing during that time. So, every now and then too, I would just take my son to the Chick-fil-A just to get out and feel some type of, just norm. But it is different when you just know that you can't leave your home. I mean, the going to the movies has changed. It's almost like unheard of for people to really go to the movie theater now. I mean, people do and they're starting to go back in the theater, but it's not the same as it was prior. And they stream so much stuff now, like you can buy movies. They're trying to push a lot of movies back in the theater only, but they're also still streaming a lot. And matter of fact, I heard, Kev, that Eddie Murphy, I think is doing another 48 hours, but it's for Netflix.
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
doing another, it's either another 48 hours. It's one of his old like movies. He's doing another like addition to it or sequel to it or whatever you call it. But I think sequel is like the second movie, right? So he's doing another addition to it. I want to say it's 48 hours and I want to say it's for Netflix. So a lot of these stars now, they're getting so much money to do like a movie for Netflix or Prime TV that they don't even care about it going back in the theater. So I'm wondering how a lot of these different businesses are going to pan out um, as a result of quote unquote our new norm. But you tapped on the loneliness, and I think that impacted a ton of people. And it impacted me also because, lucky again, I was fortunate that I was, stuck in the home with my child. So I had someone to talk to and interact with. But, it's not the same as, you interacting with another adult or doing things. And so I did during that time. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I guess it's a good thing that I at least had an outlet. I got addicted to Netflix. Okay. So everybody, it was like all your friends and family was like, did you see this? Did you see that? And my girlfriend, she beat me to a pulp and she's like, you have to watch Ozark. Ozark, first of all, I think is 900 seasons. Okay. So by the time I watched it, and then I told you to watch it, by the time I watched it, I want to say that thing had to be, I know at least 5 to 6 seasons.
It was
And
4 seasons.
okay, well, 4 seasons,
Four
but
seasons, but it was an
in an
hour
hour,
show.
yes, an hour a show,
Right.
4 seasons, an hour a show. And then it's so addicting that you could literally sit there and watch episode after episode after episode. And it's like, oh my God, hours are popping by off of this darn show. I
Mhm.
literally cleaned my whole house one time to maybe like 3 different episodes and like folding clothes and everything. That series traumatized me, and then wait, they're coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but they are doing a final season. Which the way the last season ended, whichever number that was, it ended in a way that you like, all right, I have to see this last season, but
Mhm.
maybe it won't overwhelm me as much, and I won't binge watch it. So I did a lot of binge watching during that time period. Cause it was like almost, it was like, well, what else? You couldn't leave your home. What were you gonna do? And
We
then
saw a
I
lot of good movies. We saw a lot of good movies.
a lot of good movies,
A
a
lot of
lot
good
of good
movies,
movies,
and,
virtually.
and
Yes, a
some
lot of
bad
good
ones
movies.
too. Some bad ones too. But I mean,
Yes.
you get the thing is that the effect, like when I went to Atlanta
Mhm.
and they walked around like there was no such thing, there was nothing going on, like everything was fine, and it made me nervous because I'm saying, okay, when you hear the people in the airport literally threaten people to put on a mask, or you will be asked to, you won't be able to board a plane, you can't stay in the airport. I'm like, okay, there's confidence and then there's this stupidity. But I was just like, okay, this is crazy, and even now being vaccinated in the situation, I still get freaked out by crowds. I still get
Mm.
freaked out by crowds because you don't know. And so when they do the mandate with the mask, or they do the thing saying you don't have to wear the mask, you know, you get you walk in a situation, a store or something, you see it packing, people don't got masks on. I still have mine on, but you right now I'm in a paranoid state. You know what I mean? Where I just okay, constantly washing my hands, got my sanitizer, and because I feel the minute you let your guard down, that's when you're gonna get got. And
Mm.
so, it just has changed your mindset. Right now we're open. I had a few friends, stop by. First thing I asked, have you been vaccinated? You know what I mean? Have you been vaccinated? Because if not, I'm good. So that did prepare me for the second shutdown, which happened late last year, because I was here by myself completely, and I was pretty much good. You know, what I mean, I was already there mentally, so I was prepared for it. So I mean, but being an outgoing person that I am, and just the way I am, to not have another adult to talk to, it does weigh tolls on your mind.
Mhm.
And so you know when we would have our little movie night, I would remember jumping in the shower, getting dressed to go watch a Netflix movie, and you're here, you're there, and I'm here because I just needed that. You know what I mean? You needed that. A good friend of mine said, she would get dressed for church, put on her dress, her pearl necklace, her earrings, her makeup, and sit in front of the computer and watch church. And people needed that. And so um, when you sit down and think about the people who don't have someone at home or don't have someone they can call and talk to, you really sit there. And the other aspect of it, I think a lot of things get misconstrued is with the financial side, um, where people who are receiving $1,000 a week, people are like, oh, there are a lot of people, their salaries are more than $1,000 a week. I remember when one of my exercisers going by a church that was giving away free food, and I said there were some nice cars in that in that line that you didn't think you would see in the line for people to get free food. It was some nice cars, some nice Lexus and Mercedes and BMWs in this line, and they would there to get food. So when you see the effect that it had on people, you have no choice in a sense, not choice, but you have to thank God for bringing you to that point, through this point, because some people are still feeling it. I was able to recuperate in the sense of going back to work and things like that, but there are people who really lost a lot financially, and in businesses, people who had businesses that you know they can't do nothing about. They had to shut down or whatever the situation is, and people got rental properties they can't even rent out. So it's a lot going on there, and so like I said, it affects a lot of people in different ways. We just never saw anything like this in our lifetime,
Mhm.
and like I would hate to think if we did not have the internet or the
Mm.
computer, how would we have fared in this situation?
Yeah, I
How
think
would
it
we
would
have
have
dealt
been.
with it?
I think it would have been much different. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I think um that well, I mean, if we didn't have the internet and at least had cable, it would have just been a different survival, right? But I think the internet and social media um brought a new level to the situation that helped people kind of survive. And FaceTime, because there were a lot of people, when you have elderly parents or your grandparents, and people couldn't see people in the hospital, people couldn't see the grandparents, people can't see their own parents. I often thought about my mom. I kept, because like you said, at first it was like 2 weeks, right? So I mean, 2 weeks, anybody mentally can deal with 2 weeks, but then when the 2 weeks turned into months and 2 months, everybody was like, whoa, okay, this is a bit much. And I remember calling my mom saying, Mom, you need to just come stay with me. And my mother was like, I'm fine, leave me alone. But you start to think about, your different family members, and just, we're like, are you okay? Are you fine? You lonely? Um, you know, it was just a lot. I can say that. And for myself, I will say this: I did a lot of reflection. I learned a lot about myself. And I always pray, but I prayed more. It was just, as devastating as it was also a good time to kind of think about your life, and get your life in order, so to speak. And just really think about your future. And I must say, I'm very fortunate where I didn't know anyone close to me personally. that was impacted with it and lost their life. But I do have friends that 4, 5, 6, 7 family members just gone, and you're like, oh my, like you can't even imagine. So it it was like this twofold thing where it changed people's lives, and some people it devastated their lives, but some people it changed their life for the better. They didn't know they were so stressed at work, and having that time period off kind of de-stressed them and allowed them to really rethink, everything that they were doing, and should I go back to this high power job? And yes, it brings me, a ton of money, but it was making me sick. It was stressing me out. So should I go back? So I think it did give everybody, just the opportunity of reflection. At best, that's if you took that time to see it that way. So, in I guess the point I'm trying to make is it wasn't all bad.
Hmm.
um, it definitely, gave you time to really think about your life and rethink some things. Um, so it just wasn't all bad, but I think a lot of people, like you said, there was some people in areas who was just wilding out, so to speak. But I think they was wilding out because it's this whole conspiracy theory too. It's like this conspiracy theory, like there was theories of, oh, it's not real. Um, you know, um, it's fake by the government. Just those whole theories where we're not going to go down that wicked path there. But, I think anytime anything happens, people come up with some conspiracy theory versus, just leaving it with the facts and the truth.
But
But like I
also,
said, I'm just fortunate I didn't know anybody who personally was impacted. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
when you look at like the inner city, a lot of inner city or families in that situation, they live deep in the house. They're 5, 6 deep, probably more than that. And so some people they had to get out the house because that was their outlet. So a lot of times,
True.
they're talking about people hanging on the street. They need to get out the house because they in the house. I mean, you in the house all day, and you got, you in the, some people live in the house with their families. We got 6. Some people got 8 people in the house,
Hmm.
and so, I've been seeing you for the last 2 weeks. I need to see somebody else. You know, it's
Well,
just
let's
like,
tap into that because, the news talked about how it broke or it brought closer together a lot of relationships. So there were a lot of couples who were not used to seeing that much of each other because of the rat race, so to speak. We get up, go to work 8 to 10 hours, but outside of working the 8 to 10 hours, maybe there's an hour of travel time there. So you're out of the home on an average of 12 hours. When you get home, all you do is eat, shower, go to sleep, and start the race all over again. So a lot of people were not used to being in each other's face 24 hours out of the day. And for some couples, it brought them closer together. And then other couples, it drove them like completely apart. So it was interesting to just hear the numbers on that, on how many people, it was the demise of their relationship. And,
I, you know what?
couples just not used to actually physically being together that many hours out the day.
I thought about that, and I thought about which relationship I was in would have survived this situation. You know what I mean? I don't
Mm.
know which one would have, but it was like, what relationship? Because at some point, like a friend told me, I need to miss you a couple hours a day. I need to miss my wife for a couple hours a day. Um, and then if you put kids on top of that, you have to do because from what I understood from people I know, especially younger kids, the homeschooling was a beast because they couldn't
I
keep
think
up.
it depends on the age and the
Yeah, the
kid.
age. So like they said, the younger kids. So like, I think the middle school maybe upper middle school, upper junior high school to like high school, they are pretty much good. But like, you know, kids need to be around the kids. And
Well, I
so,
don't think it was just that. Imagine kindergarten. I think, well, here's a fortunate part a little bit, right? The fortunate part, well, fortunate kind of sad, right? Kids almost out the womb, they learn how to work a tablet. Like all these kids have some type of like they sell it in every store, like even like the beginning tablet for these kids so they can listen to, the ABCs or whatever. Like so they kind of used to it from birth almost. But imagine teaching your kid, you had to teach your kid how to log into a Zoom meeting because they needed to log in and you needed to go log in and do your work for a lot of people. So imagine teaching your kindergarten how to log into a Zoom meeting and then stay paying attention to a Zoom meeting when I've seen some adults have problems in their work meeting where they're getting paid, pay attention. So now you got to get this little kid to not only tune into this Zoom meeting, but then pay attention to their teacher for however many hours. Um, it was beastly. It was
mhm.
beastly.
And then
So,
you have, you got that, then you got your work, and then your significant other has their work, and so it's a
right.
lot to navigate. And then, usually you have the date night. Now there's no date night, so you had to be innovative or creative with something like that
Yeah, you
because
can still have a date night. I
yeah, you can
think,
still have a date
well,
night, but I think it's more difficult when you have children in the house.
no, there's plenty of people that have date night with their kids in the house. Yeah, you can. I mean, my sister, sometimes her and her husband, their date night is down in their basement.
Yeah, but how old are
So,
their kids?
uh,
How old are their kids?
well, they've been married for 20 something years, so they've
Yes,
been
their
having
kids are
date
grown, so
night.
that's
But they
easy.
know, but their kids are grown now. But they've been having date night since during the onset of their relationship. So
Okay.
you had to have date night when your kids were young. So I mean, you can have a date night. I think it was about creativity.
Hmm.
And you know what? And it was about routine. I think that the key to, surviving something like this is to still stay in a certain routine. Like I read that. And that's why every morning I was getting up to walk. That's why I told my son that be ready when I sign off for work because we're going out and I would take a drive. So it was a routine. And he would start to ask me, like, sometime I was tired and it felt like going. He was like, okay, what time are we leaving? So, but I stuck to the routine. And like I said, we still went through, we had to find, I will say this, we had to like drive and Google and find different Starbucks that were open because all of them were not open. But what was funny was and it was no getting out the car, but then, some people in the line, they would be like, oh, the Starbucks in this town is open or that town is open. And one Starbucks that I went to, the line was so long that they had one of the workers out there literally directing the traffic. It was crazy. But the only reason why we was able to like sit on the highway for the line is because there was really no one on the street. I mean, right now, first of all, it wouldn't be like that now. I think it was like that because once people found what Starbucks was open, they all kind of flooded to it. I know I did. Like if they was like, oh, this one is open, I would go to that one. If they say, oh, that one is open, then we would drive to that one. But it was about routine. I think the key if this ever happens again is like is you got to have a routine that you stick to, and
But
that in your mind gives yourself that you're doing something normal.
also too is that people wait in line because before you had somewhere to go, now you got nowhere to go. So to sit in that line for an hour or so, it's like this. What are we going to do? Go back home and look at each
Yep,
other?
yep,
So I
very true.
mean, you had something to do, and so the people was like this. Okay, go on because I remember uh, this store's called Big Lots, and I was driving by, and I didn't think of them as an essential store, and I saw them open. I swear to you, I almost turned my truck over. Because I remember going up in here, and I was just like, and it was really nobody in there. But I was
Hmm.
just happy. I was just driving around looking because you seen shopping centers completely shut down,
Yes.
and I had went to CVS, and I was in CVS, and the line was through the roof, and I said, okay, let me leave here because it still freaked me out. It was, okay, the whole line thing, and you hear somebody kind of half a cough. That's it. We out. So, and I pulled. There's a big lot. So I said, I just like went in there, and I remember just walking in there and just grabbing stuff, and it was just crazy because the supermarket you had to literally catch it at a certain time. So I had to wake up in the morning. I used to talk to a lady, and she would say, "Well, produce is come because I couldn't find bananas. I couldn't find this. We got a shipment coming this day, and it is." And it was just like, and I was like, okay. So when I went to Big Lot, and the crazy part, I don't think people knew Big Lots was open,
Mm.
um, because they had a bunch of paper towels. They had toilet paper. They had tape, and I just started snatching stuff. Man, I'm snatching it, and so it was things like that. But uh, the relationship aspect is funny because I was hearing from people I haven't heard from in a long time. People was ready to jump in their car and come see a brother, and they was not playing. And I'm like, I'm getting pictures on like you never seen a picture like this before.
It was
It was a little
interesting, huh?
testy. It was a little testy. It was, yeah. People was and, you could fall for a banana in the tailpipe, but it's like, are you worth the risk? You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
you don't know. And I have things I have that can affect respiratory things that you know that this situation would not be good for me. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to take the risk. But you get a little lonely. Woo! You start thinking some things like you don't know, I don't know. You start thinking some
But
things, and
listen,
then you.
listen, they had because it's like you're sitting there and it's like, okay, what did you like after a while too? No matter how good a movie is, after a while you're like, okay, I'm tired of watching movies. And you read a book and then you're like, okay, I'm tired of reading books. And for me, I listen to the books. I'm like, all right, I'm tired of listening to books. And I listened to some music. I was like, okay, I'm tired. It was like I just wanted to be out of my house. It was like I just wanted, like, I feel like I just want to go out. Now, when they slowly started opening up the stores, and I went to the mall. I went to my local mall. Now, I will say this, when I went to the mall, when they first started opening, people were still scared and nervous. So even when I went in the store, it wasn't like it was a whole bunch of people in the clothing store. And I went not even needing anything. I just went again because I was like, all right, it's a little bit of freedom. I'm going to go out and just enjoy a little bit of the freedom. But even when I was talking to the workers in the stores, they was like, it's just crazy. And she said they was trying to open. I never forget, I was in the North store. She said they was trying to open for a while, but when they was calling the workers back, nobody wanted to come back.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. But she was telling me that no one wanted to come back because it's not even like they were guaranteeing you a lot of hours because they still wasn't sure, like, how long they was going to be open and what days or whatever the case may be. So she said nobody wanted to come back for 10 and 15 hours in a week. And then I was like, well, you know what? I don't blame her. So she
Well,
said they started to call back only then. They tried to only call back, the full time workers. She said, but it was hard she said it's hard, retail. I mean, she said it was hard to stagger their schedule, with the 40 hours, where she said normally when you're building a schedule, it's a mixture of full time, part time employees and weekend employees or whatever. So she said, imagine trying to take just all full time workers and scatter their schedule because with them you're not normally going to try, you like with full time, she said you usually try to give them their 8 hours, their 8 hours. You don't give them 8 hours one day, then 5 hours one day, and then 10 hours the next day. So it was crazy. But I mean, I had a long conversation with her, which was interesting. But the main thing was a lot of people was like, no, I'm getting more money sitting home. Why would I come back to work to only get 15 hours? How am I going to pay my bills with 15 hours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
So
was my thing because I never had. Uh, it has been over 20 years since I've been on some type of unemployment and government, and so I wanted to work. I remember walking to the supermarket the day after we got shut down. It's asking me, you hiring? And I was applying, and one of my mans was like, "Yo, man, just take this time to relax and be with yourself for right now." And I was like, "Man, I need to work." But then once the money kicks in, and that money was kicking in, because there are people who, because it happened the way it happened, there are people who were waiting. I still know someone who still has never gotten their unemployment. They actually was out, went back to work, and they still haven't gotten their unemployment. And
that's
so
crazy.
the thing is that, and there's a few people like that is who didn't. I remember a friend of mine, her daughter was furloughed. She didn't get her money until December of 2020. December of 2020 when her first check came. I
Mm,
said, stop playing. So they said they was going to give her $1,000 a week because she's supposed to, that's what but she didn't get it done. And thank God the time she lived at home with her mom, and her mom was working, her dad was working. But, so a lot of these things are messed up. And then the thing was, it's like, if you get off, you can't get back on. So
mm,
if you got off and
mhm.
you went to partial unemployment, some people were able to do it. Some people got off and couldn't get back on. So one of my coworkers now, that's what happened to him. They opened, they closed in April. They opened in May. He went back. They wasn't doing enough business, so they
Mm.
decided to shut back down. He couldn't get back on unemployment. So
Wow.
and then he has a little kid. So that was the compromise. So he ended up, and he didn't start working with us until like October. So he said from, I think it was May, I think it was maybe in July to October, there was no job. So now you're not getting unemployment. So I mean, depending on the city and stuff like that, it was one big mess because I'm sure they didn't get hit with all this. I mean, it's one thing to say unemployment is at a certain all-time high, but to get hit, you're basically laying off a city. You know what I mean? It reminds me of that movie. Oh my God, where the lady said, "I think everybody in New York City just dialed 911." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Everybody was calling, and so they shut the phones off. You had to go through emails, and
Oh,
so um, I remember my unemployment was over, and they responded to an email I sent back in March. I was asking questions, and the lady gave me the answer, and I'm sitting there like, I done already got the answer. You know what I mean? Figured it out. But they responded to an email, and I'm like, because they were overwhelmed. So this
they
was
were
this was
overwhelmed.
this was a lot going on here, and so like I said, um, some people, like I said, some people made out, some people didn't. But what I can say is this: is that uh, we have these things that in our lives that need to be fed.
Hmm.
As you call. Some people claim it's physical. They call it lust. People call it emotional. Some people think it's what you call that affectionate. We need these. Sometimes they need to be fed. I never once thought about loneliness. My loneliness needing to be fed. And this is where your mind comes in and your prayer and everything comes in because you can make some bad decisions. You can make some bad decisions, and I got and um I almost made a couple of bad decisions, and I thank God for My boy, thank God for you. I almost made some bad decisions where, you know, when you lonely and you know somebody digs you, but you really don't dig them like that, but you know you be in their presence, and then they get caught up, so you don't want to deal with that, but then you get to a point where you just, I didn't even care. I didn't even care. I didn't care. I just wanted to be next to another human being eating Fruit Loops in front of the TV watching ESPN. Like I just wanted another human being, and thank God I didn't go through with it, but I was that close. And
Mhm.
so you end up in a. It made me think about people getting into situations because of their loneliness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you know, Luther said it best. Loneliness is a sad affair, and you sit there and you sit there and you find yourself in situations that you like, damn, how did I end up here? Because you was lonely and you needed it fed, and it's just
Mhm.
like when my trainer talked about when you work out, he would talk about weightlifting. I got a lot of control when I lift weights, but when I do cardio, I get so hungry because your body's losing calories and your body wants calories, but your body don't care what kind of calories you give it.
Mhm.
They don't care. It could be chicken and broccoli. It could be steak and potatoes, or it could be McDonald's. All
Mhm.
your body knows is burning calories, and it needs calories. And if you work out, you come out the gym and you can smell a McDonald's 2 blocks away that you didn't even know was there because your body's craving those calories. So when you're sad and lonely and you're craving that companionship, you can find yourself in a bad situation, and you can hurt yourself and hurt somebody else as well emotionally because of that. And I think
Right.
sometimes what happens is that and it's funny because somebody said this to me years ago in the 90s. They said you wouldn't know if you love somebody. Stay with them during the blizzard. And I was like, whoa. He said, you want to know, you really want to know? They would say, you really want to know if that person is the one? He said, stay with them during the blizzard. Ain't talking no 2, 3 inches of snow, 6 inches with a blizzard. But that was 3 feet of snow and you ain't leaving your house for the next 2, 3 days. You know what I mean? And this is it. And some people can't do it. You know what I mean? And so this uh uh uh
see what
situation, state of
see what your
emergency.
relationship is made of. Get stuck
Yes,
with
it
that
showed,
person.
and that like this. People probably prayed a couple of times, said, "God, is this woman the right one for me? And is this man the right one for me? Here you go. Now you're gonna find out. Now you're gonna find out." So some people it saved their situation.
Mhm.
Some people it hindered. They realized like, you know what? Maybe this is not because I mean, like I said, I've thought about it on several times. Like, yo, if me and the ex was in the same, you know what I mean, in the same roof, the same time, like how would this have played out? You know what I mean? Mess around, be an episode of Snap somewhere. So, like how do you navigate it? How do you and then also too.
That was such a sensitive time that, with the right person, it might have panned out well
Hmm.
because it was so much to dissect and you had so much time to dissect it. Um, it could have, I could see how those couples that made it, I can wholeheartedly see how they made it. And those couples that didn't, I can wholeheartedly see how they didn't because, when you're stuck with someone and you really physically cannot go anywhere, that's going to get the proof out the pudding.
Look,
It's going to see what y'all made of.
when you sit around waiting for a phone call, okay, whereas before you might have said, "Oh, I call him right back." And sometimes you waiting for a phone call, or you sit there, and it's like it can be the same thing I mean, that's different, but when you're lonely and you're waiting for somebody to come home and now they're home, you know what I mean? They
Mhm.
say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but they're no longer absent. So now you seeing like, is this really, you know, who I really want to wake up next to? And then, you know, dude made a joke, but he said a lot of people, he said a lot of people are waking up next to people who they really getting to see who they waking up next to. You know what I mean? So, because all the nail salons and the places are shut down. The man made a joke. He said, "You go to sleep with your woman with a perm, and wake up on Wednesday next to a man with an afro." Like, yo, hold on, you got a mustache? I didn't know you had a mustache. But that bleaching is gone. You know what I mean? So it's like you sit there, it's like, yo, I went to sleep next to a woman with a perm, and then 6 days later, I woke up next to a man with an afro, looking like, who the hell? And that's another thing too. People grooming went down tremendously. I don't know if you paid attention. I would go out and look at people like this. Did you try to put something on? Like, I mean, I guess people used to go into work. Actually, I had a conversation like this on one of the radio stations out here talking about that. And some people were like, you know what? I work home from the office, and I used to spend X amount of dollars every week with the hand and nails and now I whatever. And so I
It
seen
gave people a
people.
lot of, you just had, you think about something, Kevin. It gave people a lot of opportunity to save a lot of money because you wasn't spending on the gas. Like you said, you wasn't going to a nail salon. You wasn't going to get your hair done. So a lot of people did talk about how they were able to save a lot of money, being home. Those
Mhm.
that wasn't in a financial like bind. Because like
But
I
even
said,
then,
for
it
some
still
people they was
helps
in
you
a
though,
bind. Hmm?
because even then, like you know, it was nothing for me on the way to work to swing by you pick up your coffee, you get your
Yep.
stuff, and you know, I got me, and them get me a brand new coffee maker, and it's making my coffee, and it's like, okay, now I got my so now I got my creamer and my coffee, and I'm not going over here to get this done, and so those things, cooking at home is cheaper than going out. So, making meals for 2 days, things like that. So that was something different too. But I remember the first
Right.
time when when my man came and got me, we was on our way out there go some take these pictures, and we going to I'm with him, and I'm in the car, and I don't know if you remember as a kid, like being in the car with your parents or something, you be in the back seat going, ooh, look at, and that's how I was in the car like this, because you drive it, I hadn't seen outside like that. So you're driving by shopping centers and you're seeing like shopping centers that's normally packed, just dead.
Yeah.
It's just dead. It's like, yo, yo. And I remember walking by a car dealership and it had a number. And the guy said, pick the car you want, call this number, and somebody will be here within 10 to 20 minutes. And I was like,
Wow.
it was an open, I was like, serious. Like they wasn't there. And it was just like, whoa. So you seen how the things had changed and a lot about that. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was. I seen a couple of sisters I knew out out and about in travels, and like, I didn't know your mustache was that thick. It's just like I oh, hey. So it was just it just hey, I didn't shave for a minute because I wasn't gonna waste the razor. It was like I got nowhere to go, but then at the same time, you want to get back to some normalcy. So I understand it on both parts of it. But it say your mind, and also not just mental. What is your support group?
Hmm.
If you have a support group, I think that was very important at this time. Whether it's
Yeah.
a church, whether
Yep.
it was people from your job. I had you. I had a couple of people who always called me and would reach out to me and talk to me, and you know what I mean. And people I could just, just every now and again check on me, and I would call to check on them. So having that support group, I think, was really important. Really
Yeah.
important when you are by yourself, or because at the time I wasn't by myself. I had a roommate, but she was still working,
Hmm.
so they went to work every morning, and then so they had their personal things going on, and so I was just sitting there, just solo, just in the house all day, like. And I remember saying to her, I didn't want to get used to this. I didn't want to get used to it. If this was a glimpse of retirement, it is boring. It
Well,
was
no,
like,
it was boring because it wasn't just that you were out of work at the time
yeah,
because
everything
of
was
the
closed.
situation. It's that everything was closed. You was on lockdown. That's the difference. You couldn't even go outside. Like I said, me going outside for my walks, it gave me some sense of normal. It was an
Mm-hmm.
abnormal normal because the abnormalness of it was that there were only a certain subset of people that were out there actually walking and exercising. But I did get to meet them. I met this couple that to this day, they walk. I don't care if it's rain, snow, shine, a blizzard, they doing their walk. And
Mm-hmm.
they do it every morning at the same time. And I met another woman, she told me the story. Her husband had cancer, he died. So it was a lot of like things that I know if that situation wasn't what it was, I would have never met these people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have never had a need to walk outside because I'm a gym girl. I like to go
Mm-hmm.
to the gym and do my thing. I like air conditioner, access to a bathroom. That's the way I like to exercise. But you
Sitting in
know,
that sauna, yeah.
so I had to find different ways in the walking, but I mean, it just gave me a whole new perspective on things. And the one that I met who husband had died, he had cancer. She was so grateful, not grateful, of course, of what happened to him, but she was just so grateful for life and just grateful about everything that she helped me change my mind about everything too. I'm like, here it is, this woman, I think she said they was married 30 something years. And she just told me how she watched him deteriorate and, but then she was telling me a lot. Like she told me a lot of stuff and she was like, that was my soulmate. Like he was my everything. And so to hear her, in spite of everything she went through, just be so grateful and go through this, I was like, all right, I can walk outside, be all right, find paper towel and toilet tissue wherever I can and go
Mm-hmm.
back in my home and, watch my shows or whatever. Because here it is, this woman, not only is she dealing with this situation, she literally just lost her husband. It's like, it was crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
so I met her and I met, like I said, about three other people. And we just, and then when I had stopped walking and they saw me one day, they was like, where have you been? I said, that fox and that deer sent me right back in my house for good. I do, though, I miss the serenity of it all because I used to go like 5 o'clock in the morning, like walk from 5 to 6. And it is just so peace. Not only is it peaceful at that time, it's so pretty because sometimes I saw the sun, setting or rising or whatever would you say. So just, nature is so beautiful. And it's like, y- I can't explain the feeling you get by just being at peace with yourself and, it's all quiet and you just taking this walk, outside where it's just you, yourself, and like God. And you really get an opportunity to just, feel good and be at peace and just be relaxed. So
Mm-hmm.
it was for me that was just a wonderful thing. But we're gonna wrap this up, Kevin, and we'll wrap it up and I'll ask you this question like overall through everything, and if we were ever to have to go through something like that again, like what would you say? What is your best tip for survival? Especially because there were a lot of people, they didn't fare well. There were a lot of people who had to do it alone, like seriously, like alone in their home by themselves with no one else. And, they struggled. Like, what would you tell someone like that, that just, it's just themselves? habits? And, what would your best tip be?
Uh, Something I learned when I was a kid, and I had to use it. You always talk to God,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my thing. You always talk to God. You know, you it's not easy, but
Mm-hmm.
you always have a conversation with God, and that's what I would do. And so, I mean, everyone's not available; they got their own things going on, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
go for a walk and put that music in my ear, and just kind of lose myself. Um, I didn't have my bike back then. I got my bike now, so if that was to happen again, I'd probably be on the road flying somewhere. But um, it is it was just and it shows you. Sometimes we think we got everything in control. You know what I mean? And something to just shut it down. And I always felt that way when I just see a snowstorm. How a snowstorm can just shut everything down. I always
Mm-hmm.
felt that way. I remember the turnpike being shut down because of the snow. Like wow, the highways just straight shut down. There was no earthquake. There was nothing. It was just something that it's just snow. So uh you just have to learn how to navigate through it, and you have to um really be in tune with yourself. Be okay with yourself. I think that's very important. And you know you got to have a good friend in your corner, someone you can talk to. You know, sometimes we have these relationships that we just sever. I don't need this person. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like, and these people, the one you think you can talk to may not be the one. And so I just say you can always talk to God, be open, to a conversation, and just be at peace with yourself. That's the best thing I could do is just don't try to make something happen. And I mean by that is put yourself in harm's way. And that's the one thing I didn't want to do. That's what I almost did. Is put myself in harm's way. And so I thank God I didn't. But yeah.
What almost happened. So I'll close out by saying, like, I do agree with like everything that you're saying. Very good tips. And I will also add too that use it as an opportunity to do some things that you swore you didn't have the time to do. Um, Utilize that free time to kind of do that. I think for me, this whole thing helped me, just relieve a lot of stress that I didn't even realize was there. But the hustle and bustle of, you know, traveling and commuting to work every day, and like you get off of work, you rush home, you make dinner, you help the kids, and then you do all of that only to go to sleep, wake up and do it all over again. So it's an opportunity that if you had some dreams and some desires and some things that you swore you didn't have the time for, utilize that sort of kind of found time, and to do those things that you just didn't have the opportunity or the time to do it. And definitely, I would say that even if you feel you don't have friends, because like you said, Kevin, people are busy, right? That have time to really talk to you like that. Try to join different groups that relate to hobbies that you like. So you like to ride, your bike. I mean, there's groups for everything. It's so crazy, but you go on one of the social media sites and you like bike group, and probably a million, groups will come up, and you join those groups and you kind of chat with them. It's like a common ground. So there's so many ways now to find opportunities to interact with people if you have that need. And I'm talking about a nice platonic like interaction, so that you're not getting yourself, in a rabbit hole, so to speak. So, find those different groups so that you can have that interaction. Like I have my book club. We didn't meet during the lockdown, but we still were in contact. So it's like, with our group chat or whatever. So you have to find different ways where you're still fulfilling needs, but you're fulfilling them in a positive way.
I want to
So,
say this real
yes.
quick. And I left it out. You reminded me. There is a group. a chef group on Facebook that we chatted a lot because we got hit hard. So a lot of
Mm.
us was chatting a lot in that group, and people were talking about things. And then I remember it was funny because I was cooking at home. I wanted Mexican, and I said, "Well, I could make. I had time, so I made Mexican food. I took a picture of it and put it on the site, and I said, "So what are y'all cooking?" And like 500 pictures popped up.
Mm.
People were outside grilling. People were different states. People were doing different things. Um, being creative. People doing pastries, and because you're so used to doing it, and then now you have nobody to. And it was every. I mean, when I said, "What are you cooking?" I never really talk in a group like that, but it just, I'm saying, like 500 pictures popped up, 500 pictures popped up, and
That's
everyone was
nice.
showing their thing, and I was like, oh, okay, so you really pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. So see, look at you help people out and didn't even know it. You know
I
what I mean?
guess,
Like something just that simple. I mean, and
yeah.
it is nice because they got an outlet too to say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm making something right now," and post it on there. So I think it's a great opportunity to stay connected. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy. Thank you for joining us. And we will see y'all next Wednesday. We don't know the topic yet for next Wednesday, but if you have a topic that you would like us to talk about, send me an email. The email is going across there, or throw it in the chat, and we will definitely respond to you and consider the topic that you have for us. So thanks, Chef Kev, for stopping by on our little Wednesday chats. I really enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.